Hey class, welcome to week 3. So today is a little bit different than the last 2 weeks in which you've been working because it marks kind of a transition week from project 1 to project 2. But what you'll notice is that the things that we're doing now are just building off of the things that you've done already. And so you'll see this throughout the semester, that everything that we do from week 1, 2, 3, so on, is just kind of a continuation of what came before. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at the Project 2 assignment description here in a minute. We'll look at kind of week 3's activities. I'll talk you through some of those. And then I want to talk you through the timeline for Project 2, because as you'll see, just like Project 1, it is quite a rapid timeline. Essentially, you'll have 3 weeks to finish Project 2 and to turn it in. But as you'll see in just a minute, a lot of the things that you're already doing are kind of building towards that work. And so I want to take a look at the assignment description. So we're on the Project 2 folder, and the reason that I'm here is because your week 3 activities are here as well under the Project 2 folder. And so what you'll see is Project 2 is a genre analysis. Now what that means is we are going to be looking at articles written in your community, and we're going to be looking at them as genres. Now I know I got some emails from some of you, over the last week or so, when you were trying to identify genres in your community for your research guide. And so I want to take a minute to slow down and kind of think about what is a genre in this context. Now, when we're talking about genres in your communities, what we're talking about is any tool that your community uses in order to facilitate communication, to achieve their goals, things like that. And so genres are tools that we use. In other words, genres are kind of the way that we develop an efficient response to a recurring need, so to speak. And so I'm going to give you some examples. So for one, there is a recurring need in this class for me to communicate with you. And so what we've done is we've developed Blackboard and email and discussion boards and feedback on papers and things like that. Those kind of help me meet the need of communicating with you. And so what those are genres. Those are tools that I use in order to communicate information. Blackboard is a genre of online learning. Email is a genre of communication. In other words, it is a thing that has kind of a set of conventions or rules or standards that set it apart from different things. So email is different from a letter because it's electronic. Blackboard is different from a regular website because it's used for learning and for all these things, and your grades are there. And so when we're thinking about a genre, that's what we're talking about. We're thinking about what kind of tools do people in your group use to communicate. And the whole reason that we're looking at this is because it's that communication that's key for fulfilling their goals, for achieving what this group is setting out to do. And that's what marks it as different than something like, a family group or something like that, where, you are communicating. But in this case, we're communicating in order to achieve a common goal, which, if you remember, is one of Swales' kind of categories of discourse community. And so in this case, what we'll be doing is we're going to be looking at the genre of the article, essentially. And this is why you have to focus on an academic or a disciplinary community, because we're going to be looking into some of the databases or some of the journals or some of the things that you identified in Project 1 in order to find articles written from your community. And so what you're going to do for this assignment for Project 2 is you're going to be taking one of those articles and looking at the way it functions. You're going to be thinking about what marks this out as a genre. And so to be clear, what you're not going to do is you're not going to be looking so much at what this particular author is saying. You're not going to be really looking at their argument. You're going to be looking at the form of the article. So for example, what kind of language do we see used? How are paragraphs formatted? Do we see things like an abstract, a works cited page? What kind of citation methods are being used? All of the formal things that make this article function to communicate. Those are the things that we're going to be looking at. And so what I'll do is I'll post some examples of genre analyses later, but for now, that's kind of what we're thinking about. And so what I want you to do this week is I want you to take a look at this assignment description just to kind of get a better understanding of what we're going to be doing. All right, so that is kind of a broad overview of what Project 2 is all about. So essentially, you'll be taking one of those articles and you're going to compare it. You're going to do kind of a compare and contrast paper. You're going to compare the genre of the article in your community to one of the articles we're reading for our class. And what this will allow you to do is it'll allow you to notice and point out any differences or similarities that exist. And this is important because what you'll see is that these genres will change. The form of the article will change depending on what community it's used in. So for example, just a brief example, in the sciences, you're going to see things like an APA citation style because they're worried about date and when something happened, versus in English, you're going to see an MLA because we don't really care about when it happened. We're cared about we care about who said it. And essentially, those differences will let you understand something more about what your community does, values, thinks about stuff like that. Again, more on that later. That's just kind of a broad overview of where we're going. So I want to take a look at your actual day-to-day work for this week. And so under week 3, you'll see you've got some reading to do. We're at chapters 2 and 4. And then you'll see this. You only have to read one of these articles, okay? And they're all under this readings tab. So you only have to read one. Feel free to read more, but you only have to read one. And the idea is that one of these articles will be the article that you use for comparison in Project 2. And then also make sure you're reading at least these. Okay, so your real nitty-gritty work for this week will be to find at least one peer-reviewed journal article from your discourse community that's kind of focusing in on the research questions that you're raising in Project 1. So if you remember at the end of your research guide, I'm asking you guys to come up with a few questions about, about your community, about any topics that you notice, things like that. All right. So that is your goal. You're going to be looking for some articles published in your community, and what you'll do is you'll find those, and you'll publish or you'll write up a brief summary of those in your blog too. And so it's a very brief summary, but what it's going to force you to do is to be succinct with your language and understand what are the main points of this. You can point those out because those are the same strategies that you'll need to do in Project 2. All right, so breaking it down, you're going to be doing the reading one of those articles, posting blog 2, and then don't forget your final draft of Project 1 is due at the end of the week. And so what I want to do for a minute before I return to Project 1 is talk about the timeline for Project 2. So you'll see that we'll be doing our summary portion of this assignment this week, and then if we go over to week 4, you'll see that you're actually posting a draft of Project 2 by the end of next week. And then the following week it'll be due. So essentially each day we'll be working towards completing a part of the assignment and kind of building towards those goals. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Don't get far behind. Make sure you're staying on top of the research, because now it's up to you to actually go into the library, go into those library resources, use the research guides, contact the librarian if you need to, and start to find articles in your community. Now, if you have trouble with that, I can always post a video walkthrough of how to properly and effectively use the library. In fact, I'll do that anyway. This week I'll throw up a video about just kind of using and managing the library for anyone that might not have a lot of experience. All right, so that's week 3. So just keep it in your mind that we're kind of on this fast pace for Project 2. Things will start to slow down for Project 3, but not too much. But that's kind of what's coming up. All right, so I want to talk about Project 1, and specifically I want to talk about the peer groups. Now, if you remember, by Friday you were supposed to have posted your rough draft. By Sunday you were supposed to have finished commenting on your group members' assignments and kind of give them feedback about what you see. Now, I noticed that only about half of you have done that. And so what this means is that half of you are already missing out on valuable group participation points, because those are, that's how I will be counting those at the end of the semester, and you cannot earn those back. So if you didn't already post a draft on Friday, you're basically out of luck for those points. Again, I don't accept late work, especially when it comes to things like that. So what's going to happen is if I see students, or if I notice a pattern of students not posting, rough drafts, what I'll do is I'll group together the people that are posting frequently, and I will, kind of put them together, and those who don't will be left to their own devices without feedback, things like that. And so it really is in your best interest to post your rough draft, no matter what you have, just whatever you have in whatever form, just throw it up there so at least you can get feedback on something. That way you're not losing out on points, you're not losing out on the opportunity to get feedback. All of those things. So make sure that you're doing that. And like I said, if not, then I'll take steps to make sure that the people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing are getting the feedback they need. Now, that said, I will also be posting, or I will be sending you feedback throughout the week on your rough drafts that you've posted. So if you've got a rough draft posted up there, you'll get feedback from me over the next couple days. But obviously, if you want to schedule a Skype conference or something like that, I'm more than more than willing to do that and help you guys out with whatever you need. Okay. So just to recap, make sure you're doing the reading. Remember, you only have to read one of those articles listed. Keep an eye on the timeline. Make sure that you're staying on top of things and start to do your research. This week, I'll post a video about using the library resources for anyone that needs help. And let me know if you have any questions. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.